The other day, a man said to me, "Are you happy?" And I said, "Yeah. Yes, I am." He said, "What, all the time?" I said, "Well, I never think of it. I never really try for it. I don't pursue it. I don't try and maintain it in any way. It just comes." And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, I know it's kind of philosophical, this. Bearing in mind this was just a guy in the street who we just got chatting for a minute. I said, happiness is cultivated by living truthfully. And he just looked at me, this guy, and smiled and walked off in a polite way. And I don't quite know what he was thinking, but that was the most honest thing I could tell him. So happiness is cultivated by living truthfully. That's my working premise. I've been road testing that for a couple of decades now, and it works for me by fulfilling myself, by aligning the outside with the inside, by trying to conduct and comport myself as well as I can, well by my own measure. I don't know what it is for anyone else, just for me. So we have this maxim in my spiritual method, the supernal path, which is this: your personal fulfillment is your sacred work. So depression arises from unfulfillment, from misalignment, from telling ourselves that our choice to live in disharmony against what we truly want is okay. Bitter and hollow sadness arising from bearing the weight of an ongoing dissatisfaction. And some carry this weight for only a short time before they buckle, whereas others seem to carry it for their whole life, but can never quite conceal the emptiness of the soul void. Depression will arrive, guaranteed, from a life of continual misalignment. Having home, work and fellowship that do not harmonise with who we are and what we aspire to become. I myself do not perceive depression as an illness, not in itself. It appears to me as a symptom of concealed forbearance. Or to put it very simply, it comes from living in opposition to the truth of oneself, from living a lie. A legal lie, a patient lie, invisible for a long time, but a lie nonetheless. And everyone feels depression from time to time. It's quite normal. It's quite ordinary for that to happen, I think, for a little while. Everyone has experiences of energetic misalignment, to feel the brokenness of the world, the horrible fragmentation. In your life, around you, in your family, in your own heart, in the cities and streets, everywhere there is pain. And if you are sensitive, which most good people are, feeling this pain may cause us to withdraw. To seek hermitage or sanctuary from the disagreeable and dissonant world outside. When it becomes chronic, however, this withdrawal, when depression blights us with its crushing despondency and isolating disconnection, then we must ask ourselves, how long are we prepared to live in misalignment? Empire asks us to do it every day, to live in concealment, to live untruthfully and just swallow it. In imperial culture, everyone is secretly unhappy and unfulfilled. It's just the way it is. In natural life, in the life of the spiritual sovereign, the powerful human, fulfillment is important. It's not a nice to have, it's not optional, it's not a side quest, it is the thing. It is a yardstick for one's own attainment of selfhood. The true and living expression of the heavenly animal, in the primal, the emotional, the intellectual, red, green, blue, the warrior, the poet, the scholar. The foundations of a spiritual life. And when the foundations are in good shape, and selfhood is achieved to a threshold of sustained quality, then, and only then, the real work begins. To find equilibrium, one must become a master of both illumination and darkness. How else can we embody the truth? It is more in blood and tears than in dreams and meditation. Darkness. To map the perimeter and dimensions of one's own sinister, sexy, subversive, dangerous cave. Before that is done, one cannot leave the cave. We are left, like Plato's plebs, watching shadows on the walls, believing they are real. Learn from the single source of real illumination, the sun. We can read of it in the Corpus Hermeticum, Book 16. The Creator, that is to say the sun, ever links heaven to earth, sending his substance down from above and raising up matter from below. He draws everything around himself and into himself, and from himself gives all to all, bestowing his light in abundance. For it is he whose beneficent powers not only pervade the heavens and the air, but reach down to the lowest depth in the earth and abyss of the sea. If there is a spiritual substance, then it is the body of the sun, which his light contains. The sun alone, being near to himself in place and nature, knows of what his substance is made and whence it flows. We cannot see him, but by systematic efforts we can understand him. The choir of spirits, or rather choirs, are placed under the command of the sun. Choirs because there are many different kinds of powers. And in this sense, a power is like an entity, so I'll say entity next time. They are set in formation under the stars and are equal in number to them. Thus arrayed, they serve each of the stars. Some of these entities are good, and some are evil by nature, that is to say, in their activity. For the essence of a spiritual entity is its activity. There are also some who are a mixture of good and evil. All these spirits have been given authority over affairs upon earth and over turbulence there. They cause a variety of disorders, both publicly in cities and among nations, but also in the life of individuals. For they shape our souls after themselves, and arouse them by residing in our sinews, in our marrow, veins and arteries, and even in our brain, penetrating as deep as our very entrails. The spirits who are set as attendants beneath each star, according to what each birth merits, take possession of each one of us at the moment we are born and are given breath. Never stationary, but turning about, they change places from moment to moment. Now when these spirits enter the two parts of the soul through the body, each agitates the soul according to its own activity. But the rational part of the soul stands free of the tyranny of these powers and remains fit to receive God. When, by way of the sun, that rational part in a man is illumined by a ray of light, and such men are few, the spiritual entities cease to affect them. For no spirit or God has any power against one ray from the supreme God. But all other men are born and led, both soul and body, by the entities, whose activities they dearly love. It is their thinking which is misled and misleads, not the love. Thus the entities have control over all our affairs upon earth through the instruments of our bodies. This control Hermes called destiny. All that excerpts from Book 16 of the Corpus Hermeticum, and I'm reading from the edition that appears in the Way of Hermes, translated by Clement Salomon, Doreen Van Oven, William Wharton and Jean-Pierre Mahe. Great book. Also contains the definitions, which is another little nice sequence of maxims. So you should check that out, because it shows not only origin, it infers not only purpose, but it also shows a path to salvation through that mysterious, enigmatic, physical manifestation of divinity in the sky every day above our heads.